Oh, I know. Oh, that's just nice. You know what, you could have
This is a program about unmarried mothers. In London, 1 out of every 8 babies is born by a mother who is not married. In the country as a whole, the number is 1 out of 16. Latest official figures show that in 1 year, 48,490 illegitimate children were born in Britain. 48,490 illegitimate babies, 15,000 more than in 1951. Just by looking, you can't tell which child is illegitimate. There's no way of picking out the mother who is unmarried, or which man has fathered an illegitimate child. Unmarried mothers belong to no particular class or age group, and theirs is not a story that can be related in statistics. It is something much more personal.
So I telephoned them, and with a very strong voice informed my mother that I had a child. And of course, complete breakdown. And she said, I was only saying to somebody the other day, you've been away from home for a long time, and if I hadn't known that you were a good girl, I never would think this would happen to you. And I said, well, it has.
Playground sex that you were taught in school, but it didn't really register. It was something that other people took part in, but it didn't register with me, not until it actually happened.
Well, it was some time until I did realise, and it's such a dreadful thing that you try not to think about it. You think, oh, well, it can't be me, it's not really happening. And it's many months before you really accept the fact that you really are pregnant.
I was absolutely horrified and petrified of the future. I never expected this to happen to me, and when it did, I felt I was alone in the world. I had no one to turn to. I was completely alone.
No unmarried girl sets out to become pregnant or deliberately rushes into a loose relationship that she knows may terminate in an 8-pound baby, though not in marriage. But for many thousands of girls, the starting point is the same. It all begins with leaving home and coming to London. London is like a magnet. It attracts girls from every part of the country, drawing them into a world that is at first strangely confusing. A world that is at once both frightening, yet full of promise. These are not bad girls. Indeed, bad girls take care not to become pregnant. They are ambitious girls, or adventurous girls, or simply young people who think of London as being an exciting place. For many of them, the fluorescent facade of the capital, sometimes misleadingly termed the heart of London, is sufficient to persuade them that the big city is all they dreamed it would be. However, it is not very long before they discover that most of London is, in truth, really like this. And slowly, they find themselves moving towards a life where having a friend, someone to come home to or come home with, is terribly important. They find a place of their own, a place in the bed-sitter belt, a place that all too often turns out to be lonelier than anything they have ever known.
Move your animal. Now! Ahora!
Sometimes There is nothing so painful as being young and away from home and feeling one is left out.
Well, we are now closing down, so on behalf of Associated with Fusion, this is Mrs. Kyle saying good night.
How old were you when you became pregnant?
22.
And would you call yourself sexually experienced at that age?
No, I wasn't.
Were you involved in what you thought was a serious relationship, or was it just a casual affair?
I think from both points of view, it was a serious relationship. But now, everything is finished. I never see him. No, once he realized that I was pregnant, he wanted nothing more to do with me whatsoever. I could contact by telephone for emergency, but apart from that, he wanted nothing to do with me at all.
Were you a virgin before?
Yes, I was. I had no experience at all of men.
Know anything about contraceptives?
Yes, I knew, but very vaguely, and I didn't know how to apply it to myself.
No, we didn't ever use contraceptives. Not through lack of knowledge, but because we didn't want to. For aesthetic reasons, we didn't like them.
You were 32 when you became pregnant.
Yes.
I presume you were sexually experienced then?
Yes.
You knew all about
Hello.
contraceptives?
Yes, I knew all about contraceptives. And so it was all a mistake.
When you first realized you were pregnant, did you think of abortion?
I didn't. My friend did for me, and it was suggested to me, but not knowing anything about it and having heard a great deal about the dangers to my own health, I decided against it. Not only that, but I felt that, all right, I'd made a mess, I was pregnant. The very least I could do would be to go through, have the child, and have the child adopted, and then something good could come out of it.
Well, I considered an abortion, but I had no contact with anybody who knew anything about abortion. If it were possible for me to have had it done, then I would have. But I didn't know anybody, and I didn't know how to do it myself, so I couldn't.
Streets such as these all over the country conceal many grim stories. No one knows how many abortions are procured in Britain each year, because the great majority are procured secretly and illegally. But it is estimated that each day over 400 unmarried expectant mothers risk their health, even their lives, to ensure that they lose their babies. Some go to backstreet abortionists. Others will be sent, usually through a friend of a friend, to a suburban house in a street looking no less respectable than this, where they will be looked after by someone without benefit of any medical qualification whatsoever. A few girls, those who can afford it, will be taken care of by qualified doctors who are prepared to break the law, either because they think it is a bad law or because they know they can charge anything up to 250 guineas for treatment. Some girls consider an even more drastic way out.
Did you ever think of suicide?
Yes, I did, very seriously. As I say, I was completely alone. I had a bed-sitter. I had no one I could confide in. I had always thought I could tell my parents if such a thing happened. When it came to the point, I couldn't. And I seriously thought of suicide.
What held you back from telling your parents?
It was just one of those things I'd always said that if it ever happened to me, I would be able to. But when it came to the point, I just couldn't. I was ashamed of myself, and I had no other person I could confide in, so I kept it to myself.
The majority of unmarried girls who become pregnant do tell their parents and are looked after by their families. But each year, over 3,000 expectant mothers write or find their way to a road in North London and the inconspicuous headquarters of the NCUMC, the National Council for the Unmarried Mother and Her Child. The council relies almost entirely on charity. Its stated purpose is to protect the interests of the unmarried mother, not only in London, but all over the country. The first person the girls talk to is the welfare secretary, Mrs. Crabb.
The very first thing, of course, that I always notice is fear. I often think there is almost a smell of fear in our waiting room. Sometimes when there are several girls waiting in there to either by appointment or they've called casually, they one gets this almost sort of physical reaction from them, because they've had to build themselves up, to drag themselves almost to the door in order to be able to come in. Very often, I'm the first person to see the written words, and once this starts, once they are able to make the contact, to tell somebody for the first time, then they can be helped to face up to it. And we can help make the practical plans by putting them in touch with the social workers who do the field work.
Most of these social workers are employed by various religious denominations. Their prim, forbidding title of moral welfare worker belies their main purpose, which is not to preach, it's a bit late for that anyway, but to give sturdy advice in a sympathetic manner. Very often, the social worker is the first person the expectant mother has been able to confide in. She is the sensible auntie, the practical one, the restorer of optimism. She becomes a friend. These girls are put in touch with the social workers in London by doctors, hospitals, and the Council for the Unmarried Mother. An increasing number of them have come from towns and villages all over Britain because they are already pregnant. Indeed, one of the main reasons why London's illegitimacy rate is so high is because London is big enough to hide the girl who is going to have a baby.
Why didn't you have your baby at home in Ireland?
Because there was only 2 hospitals there that I could have it in, and in one hospital it would be just known for me to have it in, you know, as being unmarried, and the other one they would put you in a separate place away from the married mothers, so therefore they'd still know that you were unmarried, and if my grandmother had found out, probably would have killed her, or would have had a broken heart from it or something. I didn't want her to know.
Does any of your family know that you're having a baby?
Yes, my aunts and my sister knows.
How do they feel about it?
Well, they don't want to know, really. They said I could come home if I gave up the baby, but not bring the baby with me, and it'll be just for a holiday.
You don't want to give up your baby?
No.
Never thought of having him adopted?
Yes, I did think of it at first, but as time went on, I thought, well, I couldn't when I started to feel it. Life and that, I couldn't give it up because I knew that it was mine and I wanted it.
Before you started to feel the baby quicken, did you ever think of getting rid of it, of trying to get rid of it?
No, only just to get it adopted. But once it started moving and that, I didn't want to give it away.
When is your baby due?
3 weeks.
Are you frightened?
Yes, very much.
I was pregnant for 7 months before I told my parents. I didn't tell anybody at all. And I finally had to at the end, you know, I had to sort of break down. But I was just going around sort of in places, you know, my mind was a blank, more or less. I got to the stage where I didn't know what I was doing. I was going out into the traffic and traffic was just coming at me and I just didn't know. And I had to get away from home. Because my father's well known and I didn't want any publicity or, you know, any rumours at all, because the neighbours are pretty talkative, you know.
There are over 150 homes, mother and baby homes, scattered throughout Britain. Anonymous places, often Victorian houses and respectable residential streets, where a girl may go for 6 weeks before and 6 weeks after her baby is born. Most of the homes are run by churches, although a few, like this one, are owned by adoption societies. The expectant mothers pay as much as they can towards the cost, and local authorities also make a contribution. The standard and comfort of the home varies according to the amount of money available. A unit for 20 mothers is contained within the grim walls of an old people's home, once a poorhouse. The LCC helps to support 30 mother and baby homes, but only runs 2 itself. There is a waiting list for places at all of them. At some of the church homes, the discipline is strict, even harsh.
Horrible. You had to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to church, and then at 8 o'clock you had your breakfast, then you went to work, and then after that at 12 o'clock you had your dinner, you went back to work again until 3, then you had your tea, in the afternoon you had the rest, and you had your supper at 7 o'clock, and for an hour you went to another room to have a smoke and a talk, and then you went to bed.
That's all you did for the week. Not allowed out at all. Unless by special permission, if someone came up to see you, they could take you out, but only in the grounds.
You mean you weren't allowed to go out at all?
No, only on Saturdays.
I like it, I like it. I like the way you run your fingers through my hair.
A new problem is the rapidly rising number of teenage mothers and fathers.
Let me come in when your mother ain't there. I like it, I like it. I like the words you say.
Occasionally society rebukes them, though can society talk? And dutifully records the tragedy in annual figures and returns. 12,081 girls under 20 gave birth in 1 year to illegitimate babies. 725 of these were 15. 133 were 14.
I like it, I like it.
23 were 13.
I was just over 14 when I met him, and I was a virgin at the time, and I fell in love with him. I just think it's horrid to be in love, because I think you have to do that sort of thing when you're in love, and you can't help it. And of course I gave myself to him. I didn't mean to.
Most of the girls in this home are unmarried teenage mothers, children with children on the way, whose adolescence now only remains in their voices.
Gosh, I say I've changed a heck of a lot in the last few months. I seem to have got much older. I know what being scared is now. Scared really of having a baby more than anything, and scared when I go anywhere in case people are going to say anything and look at me and stare, and it's just my imagination, but they seem to stare a lot more than what they used to. I can't see myself being called mummy. That's probably why I'm going to have it adopted. It's all very strange, really. I try not to think about it too much, you know, because it upsets me quite a bit, but I keep seeing babies on television in their prams a lot more than what I used to. I seem to notice it, you know. Of course, it's my imagination, because I used to see it a lot before, but it just seems like I keep seeing babies and newborn babies. It's very depressing to think I've got one inside me and I'm not going to be able to keep it.
Who is to blame? What is the moral standard of young people today?
It varies from person to person, and I think it varies from the area you live in, but generally I think it's much more looser than it was a long time ago. Most people have sex before marriage, where they didn't before. You have sex screamed at you from the newspapers and the films, everywhere you go, so it's only natural that it should become a greater part of your life, especially amongst teenagers.
No matter what the age of the mother, in every case there is another person involved, the baby's father.
No, I don't think we ever believed we were in love with each other at all. I think our bodies were complementary, and we enjoyed each other's company in a physical way.
You knew, though, that you were running the risk of becoming a father.
Oh, certainly, yes, certainly.
Do you feel any guilt about it?
No, I don't feel guilt. I don't feel ashamed. I don't feel any... I can't say that I don't feel I've done anything wrong, but because I know I've done something wrong, because it creates such a difficult situation, not only for the child, for whom everybody's heart seems to go out, but I think people's hearts ought to go out for the mother just as much. But I did feel a sort of remorse, I suppose, but no more than that.
This means much more to a woman than it does to a man. A man, this is just part of a relationship with a girl which is probably very casual. But to a girl, particularly alone in London, she clings to this. This means something very, very much to her. and she becomes obsessed, not with sex, but with the whole relationship, and it starts meaning very much to her because until this point she's had very little in life to look to. She's been wandering around with no particular objective, and suddenly she comes across this relationship, and the whole thing completely takes her over, and she's lost in the sea of this wonderful relationship. And of course she's a perfect prey to any man who can persuade her that of course he is really interested in her. In fact, he is as bored as she is with life. He is as lonely as she is, and she just happens to be there, and well, if she said no, plenty of other girls would say yes.
I'm quite sure that loneliness has a great deal to do with it. Very often a girl becomes pregnant because she needs affection. It may be because she's been used to a great deal of affection at home, she's had a great deal of happiness, loving family, and suddenly she's without it, and so she looks around. Or it may be that she's been just the opposite, a deprived child who's never had real love and affection, never known what it means, and it is the simplest and easiest way to find it.
Many girls seek love. Some become pregnant, some are married, some are not. The welfare state makes no distinction. It offers the same medical instruction and care to all mothers in the months before the baby is born. However, shame and secrecy is such a bounden part of illegitimate pregnancy that many girls are incapable of facing the fact that they are expectant until several months have passed. Some prefer to find excuses for not taking antenatal care. A few even manage to disguise their pregnancy until the very last moment.
No, I was very crafty. You know, I went on a strict diet and I wore the right sort of clothes and was well corseted, and they had no idea at all of what was going on. I only put on about 10 pounds, so it just didn't really show.
Well, the first doctor I went to confirm that I was pregnant, after seeing him I moved, and I didn't have a doctor, and I was working all the time and really hadn't got much time to see one.
I kept on working right until the day that I was going to have the baby. In the morning, I rang up the office because I felt the labour pains, and I just said, well, I don't feel too well, I don't think I'll come in today. I told my mother to ring them up and tell them that I got food poisoning or something, and I went into hospital and had the baby.
What is your attitude while you are delivering the baby in an emergency?
Oh, well, it's a mother having a baby.
Well, at first I'm scared of what's going to happen when I have it, and what's going to happen after I have it, in case I won't be able to look after it properly, or I won't get a place where I can look after it. Well, at first I'm scared of what's going to happen when I have it, and what's going to happen after I have it, in case I won't be able to look after it properly, or I won't get a place where I can look after it.
For many unmarried mothers, the problems most difficult to bear begin after the baby is born, after they leave hospital. Now the child has become a reality, something that can be seen and held. And very often, all at once, the attitude of the mother changes.
Well, first of all, when they tell you, it doesn't really register. You don't think you're having a baby. They just tell you, and it's not really me. But when you feel the baby move, and eventually you see the baby, and you know that it's your child and you're its mother, then nothing in the world will make you give him up, because he is part of you.
But a very curious thing happened. The child was born, and within 2 seconds flat, something hit me, which I believe is called a maternal instinct and mother love, which I'd never experienced before. And it wasn't only that I felt that the child belonged to me, and I had something which was mine, and a rather possessive attitude, but also that there was this tiny newborn child who knew nobody in the world except me, and that I more belonged to him, and that I had a tremendous sense of duty and responsibility. I couldn't analyze it as such at the time, but looking back, I suppose this is what it was. Really, I just felt that it was part of me, and not just a cabbage that I'd produced.
They asked me what would I be doing with the child, and I said, I'll be keeping it. Will you be getting married, one of them said to me. I said, that remains to be seen. I said, I don't really know. I said, whatever happens, I'll just try and do my best for my son.
Well, I had to think of the child, not of myself. I thought it was better for him that he should be adopted. For a boy, I think he needs a father. He needs a proper home for security. I think also that it's a terrible stigma for a child. And after all, he didn't ask to be born. I got to bear my own. Whatever strain it was, I had to bear it.
When the mother returns from the hospital to the mother and baby home, she is allowed 6 weeks in which to make a decision, probably the most agonizing decision of her life. She has to decide whether to keep her child or allow it to go for adoption. In the long months before the confinement, she has had much time in which to think.
Did your attitude change when the baby was born?
Not the first fortnight. I wanted nothing to do with him whatsoever. But I had to stay with him for 6 weeks. And at the end of the 6 weeks, I very much wanted my child. I wanted to keep him. And I stopped the adoption procedure and had extra time to think about it. I was at my wit's end. I didn't know how I would keep him. And eventually, I had to go back to adoption.
Did you tell your parents, ask for their help then?
I told my parents when he was a fortnight old that I'd had a child. They were very good when I first told them, and they asked me what I was going to do. At the time, of course, I was still having him adopted. When I actually came to wanting to keep him, they were dead against it, and they wanted nothing more to do with me or with the child.
Do you think it's a good system whereby mothers who say they want to have their babies adopted must look after their babies for the first 6 weeks?
I think it's very bad. If a girl has to have a baby adopted, she must keep to that. And I think that for 6 weeks afterwards, she naturally loves that child. After childbirth, you want someone to turn to. And there's only the baby. And at the end of the 6 weeks, the parting is terrible.
I don't think there's ever any good time to make this decision, whether to keep the child or part with it. I think that emotionally she is as overwrought a few hours after the birth as she is 6 weeks afterwards. But in that 6 weeks, if she's helped properly by skilled people, she is helped to face the problem of what she's doing. She knows that she really is parting with a child. Or on the other hand, during that 6 weeks, she can be helped to face the practical issues of what she's going to be up against once she leaves the cosy mother and baby home, which we know is cosy. I mean, there are, the nappies are easily washed, there's always nurse on hand or sister to give a bit of advice, and sometimes the mother doesn't really think about the practical thing of how she's going to manage afterward.
Babies are not the most popular tenants, and with many landladies, the unmarried mother comes into the same category as non-European. Finding a flat or a room to let is one thing. Being welcomed by the landlady is another.
The majority of landladies won't even listen to you. They don't want you. They don't want children. Not even if you're, if you're married or so, but they don't want children in London. It's for business people. They have premises. They don't want anybody who's going to cause any noise or anything, and children run about and they might kick the paint and so on. They're in the way, really. They don't want them.
An unmarried mother is entitled to the same maternity benefit from the state as a married mother who pays national insurance. She receives £3, 7 shillings and 6pence a week for 11 weeks before the baby is born and for a further 7 weeks after the baby is born. She receives free milk. She also receives a maternity grant of £16. But for the unmarried mother living on her own, this can never be enough to support herself and the baby, even as a start. Inevitably, she must go out to work.
How old were you when you had your daughter?
40.
How old is she now?
11.
Through those 11 years of bringing her up, what has been the most difficult thing?
The most difficult thing has been having to work something like 14 hours a day. But sometimes I've done 3 jobs just for the sake of paying somebody to look after her. One job started at 6 in the morning and finished at 10. The next one I went across the road from 10 to 5. And the next one I went from 5 to 11:30, 12:30 at night. I then caught the all-night bus home, and so it went on for a whole year like that.
All this to support your daughter?
All just to support my daughter and pay people to look after her.
Do you think she's been harmed by those early years, the fact that she didn't see you when other people were looking after her in the day?
Not in the least. I think that's all tripe, saying they're harmed by somebody else looking. If the mother comes home to them at night, the child knows. My daughter hasn't suffered in any way.
But you have?
I'm the only one who has suffered. It's taking a toll on me now.
This woman was 40 when she became an unmarried mother. Now she is 51. With the 15-year-old mother, the practical difficulties are even greater. The law says a girl cannot marry under the age of 16, whether or no she has her parents' consent. But the law also says that a mother is entitled to keep her child, whatever age she is. And in Britain last year, 1,000 children under 16 had babies.
15 or 50, I think anybody can be a good mother if they try. Well, I hope to get a resident job with my child. It's very difficult because it's very hard to find, but I think in time I will. No, well, I wasn't planning to keep my baby before I had her. Well, at least I told myself I'd be able to give her up. But I hadn't really thought what it would be like doing so. 15 or 50, I think anybody can be a good mother if they try.
But society feels you can only be a good mother if you're also a wife. So, most unmarried mothers find it prudent to pay the artificial price of respectability.
You wear a wedding ring. Don't you tell anybody that you are, in fact, an unmarried mother?
No, you can't tell your workmates about it. You just have to lie your way through and keep on telling lies about it.
Why is this? What do you think would happen if people did know?
They wouldn't have any respect for you in your work if they thought you were an unmarried mother.
Well, it's my mother, my job. It's a very private thing, and I think one would put oneself in a position where one would come under attack of a rather subtle sort of nature.
It is only the rare person who can afford to be completely honest with others, including her child.
Yes, I shall always be Miss with no husband, as far as he's concerned. And he will always know that what he is and what I am. So it will be just natural to him. It won't be a shock.
What was your mother's reaction when you told her?
Well, I'm illegitimate myself, so her reaction wasn't one of, well, what shame you've brought to the family. It was more or less, well, what have you decided to do, and what do you want to do? Tell me, and then I'll see what I can do to help you.
Do you think you've been forced to grow up a little too rapidly?
Well, I grew up when I found out that I was illegitimate. From then on, I wasn't a child anymore. And that was a long time ago. And for a long time, I've been adult.
Supporting two on wages that were meant to support only one. The problem of what to do with the child while the mother is out working is usually solved in one of two ways. One way is to pay someone else to look after the child.
Now, you never thought of adopting your child, and at the moment she's being fostered. Do you find that a satisfactory arrangement?
Only as a temporary thing, yes. It's not really very satisfactory over a long period, I should think. It's a very worrying way of having your child looked after, even if you're quite sure that the people are caring for her well.
What's the worst thing about it?
Having your own child looked after by someone else when you'd rather look after her yourself. And the relationship with the foster mother is never very easy, and the child usually loves the foster mother better than she loves her own mother.
Why did you have to have him fostered?
Well, because I was in a hardship of, why I had him, I had to go to part-time work, which wasn't any help to me, couldn't even buy our food a week, so I had to let it go to his godparents so I could get more money and work more hours.
Did you ever think of having him adopted before or after you had him?
No, I do not believe in it. I think it is cruel to do that to any child. I think that the child should be with his mother and not with anybody else. If I could have my son with me today, I would have him.
Having the child fostered is one way of overcoming the question of who's to look after him while the mother is out at work. The other way is the day nursery, run by the local authority, sometimes in cooperation with church organizations.
I'm a secretary, and I work not far from here. I start at 9:15, and I work till 5:15. Bring the baby here at 9 o'clock. And I know that he's being looked after very well here. And I feel happy about leaving him here. But I didn't want to upset him, so I had to stay away, you know, during the day. I would love to have come, really, but, you know, I think it would have upset him to see me and then to go away again, you know. I'd like to be with Robert more than I am now, but I just couldn't afford to.
Thank you, God, for everything. Amen.
This kind of care costs the unmarried mother a few shillings a week, depending on how much she is earning. But there are more children than there are places available. So, in one sense, these children are the lucky ones. Most local authorities give top priority for places and day nurseries to the children of unmarried mothers. Miss Upton, in charge of this nursery in London, says,
"For the child's sake, yes, I'm quite sure it's better too. It's right for them that they should come in, mix amongst other children, And we have to remember, too, that when we say giving top priority to an unmarried mother, we're also including all the unsupported mothers, all the separated and divorced and broken homes. They're also given the same top priority, so it is quite a fair system, I'm sure.
Miss Upton, at the end of the day, when your children go home, do you worry about the kind of home they might be going to?
Yes, we do. We worry quite a lot because the conditions in their homes are so far removed from what they have here.
Well, I think society should be changed. There should be new laws to help the unmarried mother. I've heard of the council for the unmarried mother, but I never went there. But as far as I can see, it is only a hiding place for the young girl until she has her baby. Then she is sent out to face the world alone if she has no parents to help her.
They were so good when I first told them, and I thought they would help me out. I have a younger sister, and I felt they could have had him, but they wanted nothing more to do with me or with my child.
I think the punishment starts from very early on. The moment a girl is pregnant, there is this shame and fear. The parents are ashamed of her, and they try and punish her, I think, by pushing her away, by rejecting her. Society as a whole, I feel that the stigma has lessened in society, generally speaking, particularly in the big cities, in the classless society. Perhaps in the smaller provincial areas, it's harder for a girl to be accepted. But the practical things punish her. That living on a small salary, the lack of somewhere to live adequately, the lack of family life for the child. This punishes the child.
Well, my family are definitely working class, and I think among the working class and the upper class, then they will look after their daughters, but among the middle class, I think there is a tremendous amount of hypocrisy. On the surface, they appear to have a very liberal attitude. Well, if anything happens to you, dear, well, we'll look after you and the baby, because they don't think of it ever happening to them. But when it does happen to their daughter, it's, well, get out, we don't want to see you anymore. You've brought shame to us, and what are the Joneses going to think?
It will go on increasing so long as we imagine that it could never happen to our daughter. Towards the illegitimate child, and some of these children are illegitimate, we have learned to grow more tolerant. Towards their fathers, we remain strangely forgiving. Towards their mothers, we are apparently unwilling to show forgiveness. But could we not try to understand?
It was simply a relationship which developed through being in London on my own, being in company with people who were used to a pretty full relationship with girls, and having refused to join in with this sort of relationship for some months, I found that the net result was no relationship at all, and eventually I became part of a relationship. It's as simple as that.
It's the sort of thing you can never get over. It goes on and on for years. If you do anything else or you go to prison, eventually it comes to an end and people do forget. But with a child, you have it, or forever, I suppose.